Captain Vex of the Galactic Unity observed Earth through the viewscreen of his scout vessel. His 4 eyes blinked in unison as he recorded his findings for the 18th day of surveillance. Log entry 42. The humans continue their daily routines, unaware of our presence due to our cloaking technology. Their behavior remains concerning. His second-in-command, Officer Trell, chittered nervously. Captain, I've completed the physiological analysis. These beings are unlike anything in our database. Vex reviewed the data and felt his exoskeleton tighten with apprehension. Humans appeared so fragile compared to most spacefaring species: soft skin, no natural armor, modest physical strength by galactic standards. Yet the data told a different story. They heal from injuries that would kill most species. Trell continued. Their endurance is unprecedented. We observed one human running for 26.2 miles without stopping. For pleasure. For pleasure. Vex's antennae twitched. That can't be right. Furthermore, Trell continued, they exist in almost every environment on their planet. From freezing poles to scorching deserts, they've adapted to survive everywhere. The most disturbing recordings showed humans casually discussing their day while consuming beverages at temperatures that would scald most species' mouthparts, or ingesting substances containing capsaicin, essentially plant-produced chemical weapons, and enjoying it. They're consuming poison for entertainment, Vex noted, mandibles clicking with distress. Officer Moore, their cultural specialist, entered the bridge. Captain, I've been monitoring their entertainment broadcasts. You need to see this. The viewscreen displayed humans participating in activities called extreme sports, deliberately jumping from great heights, riding unstable boards down mountains, fighting each other in ritualized combat. They voluntarily risk death, Moore explained, as a recreational activity. This makes no evolutionary sense, Vex muttered. A species this reckless should have gone extinct. Their surveillance had also revealed humans working continuous cycles with minimal rest, enduring physical pain without medical intervention, and casually discussing existential concepts that would drive most sentient species to madness. Most concerning, Trell noted, is their cognitive dissonance. They perceive themselves as fragile and vulnerable, yet their behaviors suggest otherwise. They don't know what they are. Vex made his decision. Establish contact with High Command. The humans aren't merely unusual. They're potentially dangerous. Not because they're hostile, but because they don't understand their own capabilities. As the communication was sent, Vex watched a human child on the viewscreen fall, scrape its knee, cry briefly, then continue playing as if nothing had happened. A minor injury that would sideline one of our young for days, Trell observed. Yes, Vex replied. And therein lies the danger. They consider themselves ordinary. They have no idea how terrifying they truly are. In the darkness of Earth orbit, the scout ship waited for High Command's response, while below, humanity continued its daily existence, blissfully unaware that they were being studied and feared by visitors from beyond the stars. High Command took 8 Earth days to respond. Their directive was clear: continue observation, determine if humans pose existential threat, avoid detection at all costs. Vex dispatched teams to gather more data from various Earth regions. Disguised in adaptive camouflage suits that mimicked human appearance, officers infiltrated human population centers. Officer Krill reported from a hospital, a facility where humans repaired their damaged bodies. The medical practices observed left the entire crew speechless. They cut each other open, Krill explained, displaying footage of surgery. They remove organs, repair them, replace them, sometimes with artificial components or organs from deceased humans, and the patients survive. They allow their bodies to be deliberately damaged as a healing strategy. Vex couldn't comprehend it. And look at this, Krill continued. After major surgeries, they're walking within days. Their recovery rate is exponential compared to any known species. Officer Dren, studying human military activities, brought equally disturbing news. Their warriors train by pushing their bodies beyond normal tolerance. They call it pushing through the pain. They deliberately induce physical suffering to enhance performance. The scout ship's biologist, Zorn, was analyzing human sleep patterns. Most species require sleep cycles proportional to their metabolic rate and neural complexity. Humans should need at least 14 hours daily, but they function on 6 to 8. Some operate on even less during what they call crunch time. What happens during crunch time? Vex asked. They consume stimulants, primarily a neurotoxin called caffeine, and remain awake for days. Their productivity decreases, but they continue functioning when any reasonable species would be comatose. Moore, who had been monitoring human media, called for attention. Captain, observe their entertainment. They imagine fictional scenarios where they face extinction-level threats for amusement. The view screen displayed humans watching horror films, disaster movies, and apocalyptic scenarios, laughing, excited, enjoying simulated destruction. They find entertainment in their own theoretical demise, Vex noted. They simulate worst-case scenarios constantly, mentally preparing for catastrophe without conscious awareness. That evening, the crew gathered to compile their findings. The picture emerging was increasingly alarming. They constantly imagined threats, Moore summarized. Their entertainment, their planning, their defense systems, all based on anticipating danger. They've evolved to prepare for the worst possible outcomes at all times. And physically, Trell added, they're walking biohazards. Their mouths contain bacteria that would be lethal to most species. Their immune systems attack unknown entities with overwhelming force. Even their reproductive process is shockingly traumatic by galactic standards. Vex contemplated the implications. A species that endures pain as routine, that heals from grievous injuries, that prepares for apocalypse as entertainment, that thrives in environments that would kill most life forms. And they don't even realize it, Krill finished. They think they're normal, even weak. They have no concept that by galactic standards, they're practically indestructible. Vex transmitted their findings to High Command with a personal note. The humans' greatest strength may be their obliviousness to their own resilience. They push boundaries because they don't know they're extraordinary. This makes them unpredictable and potentially unstoppable. The response from High Command was immediate and unprecedented. All scout vessels converge. Full Galactic Council convening to discuss humanity. Standby for diplomatic delegation. This was serious. The Galactic Council rarely assembled for new species discoveries. Humans had triggered the highest alert protocols. Meanwhile, Officer Dren had infiltrated a human educational facility called a school. His report left the crew in stunned silence. Their young are expected to fail repeatedly as part of learning, Dren explained. They call it trial and error. They encourage their offspring to attempt tasks beyond their capability, experience failure, and continue trying. Intentional failure as a teaching method. Vex couldn't fathom it. In their civilization, failure was minimized to protect the young. It gets worse, Dren continued. They subject their young to competitive activities where half must lose. They call these sports or games. The losers are expected to analyze their failure, improve, and compete again. Trell, who had been studying human history, looked up from his datapad. Their entire civilization follows this pattern. They fail catastrophically. Wars, economic collapses, pandemics, then rebuild, adapt, and advance. Where most species would collapse after such traumas, humans incorporate the experience and continue. Moore added, their literature glorifies this cycle. They have countless narratives about individuals facing overwhelming odds, suffering tremendous hardship, and emerging stronger. They call it the hero's journey. It's their default mental framework, Zorn noted. They expect adversity as the norm. Most species construct societies to minimize suffering. Humans construct theirs to overcome it. Officer Krill had been analyzing human emotional responses. Their neurochemistry rewards them for overcoming challenges. They produce mood-enhancing chemicals when facing and conquering difficulties. They're literally addicted to confronting adversity. Vex paced the bridge. So they're psychologically conditioned to face threats rather than avoid them, physiologically adapted to survive conditions that would kill most species, and culturally programmed to view failure as temporary. And they have no idea this makes them unique. A new report came in from an officer observing a remote human outpost in a region humans called Antarctica. Temperatures there dropped to levels that would freeze the biological fluids of most sentient species. Humans lived there for months conducting what they called research, simply because they were curious about an uninhabitable wasteland. Their drive to explore is pathological, Vex observed. They establish settlements in locations that offer no survival advantage, purely to experience hostile conditions. Trell displayed historical data on the view screen. Look at their space program. Their technology was rudimentary, failure rates catastrophic. Any rational species would have abandoned the effort. Instead, they normalized the risk of death as acceptable losses and continued launching their people into space in what were essentially controlled explosions. The communication panel chimed. 5 more scout vessels had arrived in the solar system, cloaked beyond human detection capability. The galactic delegation would arrive within days. Prepare comprehensive reports, Vex ordered. The Council needs to understand what we're dealing with. A species that perceives itself as ordinary while displaying resilience that borders on the supernatural by galactic standards. As his crew complied, Vex watched the night side of Earth rotating beneath them, the lights of human cities glittering like stars against the darkness. Somewhere down there, humans were pushing their limits, testing boundaries, failing, recovering, advancing, all without realizing how extraordinary this made them. The diplomatic vessel from the Galactic Unity arrived with unusual haste. Council Representative Jex, a veteran of first contact scenarios with 48 species, requested immediate briefing. In my 3 centuries of service, Jex stated, I've never seen High Command this concerned about a pre-FTL civilization. Vex presented their findings while the diplomatic team watched footage of human activities. Their reactions ranged from disbelief to horror. They willingly immersed themselves in frozen water, asked one diplomat, watching humans swimming in icy lakes. For recreation. That's nothing, Trell replied. Observe their medical procedures. The footage of bone setting caused several diplomats to leave the room. The concept of deliberately breaking and realigning skeletal structures while the patient remained alive was too disturbing. What about their psychological profile? Jex inquired. Are they aggressive toward other species? Moore answered, complicated. They form deep emotional bonds with non-human organisms on their planet. They keep other species as pets, providing care and resources without utilitarian benefit. However, they simultaneously exploit other species for food and resources without apparent cognitive dissonance. Predator psychology, noted the diplomatic team's xenopsychologist, but unusually complex. Their treatment of their own kind shows similar contradiction, Krill added. They can exhibit extraordinary compassion or extreme cruelty, sometimes simultaneously. Their social structures both restrain and amplify these tendencies. The most senior diplomat, Elder Pex, who had remained silent, finally spoke. Show me their response to catastrophe. Shrell displayed historical records of human disasters, earthquakes, floods, wars, pandemics. The footage showed humans rushing toward danger to save others, working without rest to rebuild, adapting to new circumstances with remarkable speed. Fascinating, Elder Pex murmured. Most species avoid risk. Even catastrophe-adapted species like the Dornians respond to threats with predetermined protocols. Humans improvise continuously. They create solutions spontaneously during crisis. The most concerning aspect, Vex emphasized, is their obliviousness to their own nature. They perceive themselves as vulnerable creatures, while demonstrating capabilities that would be considered superspecies traits elsewhere in the galaxy. Jex contemplated this. A species unaware of its own potential has no self-limiting parameters. What do they call themselves? Humans, Homo sapiens, people, various terms, Moore answered. Their scientific classification literally means wise man, suggesting they value their intelligence above their physical resilience. Yet their intelligence, while notable, isn't extraordinary by galactic standards, Jex observed. Their physical and psychological traits are what make them unique. Their bodies regenerate from injuries that would be fatal to most species. Their minds can endure cognitive strains that would break most sentient beings. Elder Pex studied the data silently, then declared, "We must establish contact." The room fell silent. "With respect, Elder," Vex said, "they don't meet technological criteria for first contact." "The criteria exist to protect developing civilizations," Pex countered. "These humans may need no such protection. More concerning, we may need protocols to protect ourselves. They must be made aware of their place in the galactic community before they discover it themselves." Jex nodded slowly. "I concur. Unpredictable, resilient, and unaware of their own nature, humanity could unintentionally cause havoc if they enter galactic society unprepared." The decision was made. For the first time in galactic unity history, a pre-FTL species would be contacted, not for their benefit, but as a preventative measure for the rest of galactic civilization. "Prepare first contact protocols," Jex ordered, "and add special provisions. The humans must be approached carefully. They don't know they're terrifying, and we mustn't be the ones to tell them." The galactic unity established a comprehensive contact plan. Unlike typical first encounters where technology was the primary concern, this protocol focused on psychological management. "We must avoid triggering their crisis response mechanisms," Elder Pex warned. "Their improvisational abilities during emergencies make them unpredictable." The plan was methodical. First contact would occur with a small group of humans, carefully selected for psychological stability. The meeting location would be isolated to control information spread. Most importantly, humans would be presented with the impression that their resilience was standard among galactic species. "We cannot allow them to realize they possess unique biological and psychological advantages," Jex emphasized. "Their self-limitation is our only safety mechanism." As preparations continued, officers monitoring Earth reported accelerating technological development. Humans were advancing faster than projected. "Their progress follows exponential patterns," Zorn reported. "They're developing quantum computing, advanced AI, and improved spaceflight simultaneously rather than sequentially like most species. This complicates matters," Vex noted. "Technological advancement without corresponding psychological evolution is dangerous." Officer Lin, the ship's historian, provided historical context. "Every species in the galactic unity developed technology in proportion to their psychological maturation. Weapons capability matched ethical frameworks. Humans are developing capabilities without the temperance that usually accompanies them." During the planning, an unexpected incident occurred. A human space telescope briefly detected one of the scout vessels during a cloaking system recalibration. The human scientific community was buzzing with excitement about the anomaly. "They're actively searching for us now," Trell reported. "Their detection equipment is primitive but surprisingly effective when directed precisely." The incident forced acceleration of the contact timeline. The delegation would need to approach humans within days rather than the planned months of preparation. As the final plans were made, Moore made a troubling discovery while monitoring human communications networks. "Captain, humans have extensive fictional narratives about alien contact," he reported. "Many envision hostile scenarios where humans ultimately triumph against technologically superior invaders." Vex reviewed the material with growing concern. They routinely imagine themselves successfully resisting species with vastly superior technology. "Yes," Moore confirmed. "And these narratives share a common theme. Humans prevail through their endurance, adaptability, and willingness to accept casualties that would be unthinkable to other species. Elder Pex reviewed these science fiction stories with grave concern. These aren't merely entertainment. They're psychological preparation. Humans have been rehearsing first contact scenarios for generations, and in their imaginations, they always eventually win, regardless of initial disadvantages. This changes our approach, Jex decided. We cannot risk being perceived as threatening. First contact must emphasize cooperation and mutual benefit. Any hint of superiority or control will trigger their resistance responses. The delegation crafted a new message. Humans would be approached as equals, despite their pre-FTL status. The galactic unity would offer technological assistance, particularly for Earth's growing environmental problems, as a gesture of goodwill. We must appear helpful but not superior, Jex instructed. Vulnerable but not weak. Most importantly, we must never reveal that we find them terrifying. As the contact team made final preparations, Vex had one last conversation with Elder Pex. In all your experience, Vex asked, have you encountered any species comparable to humans? Pex was silent for a moment. Once. The Dremali. They were similarly resilient and adaptable. What happened to them? They expanded too quickly, colonized aggressively, and ultimately collapsed from internal conflicts. Their resilience became their downfall. They could endure conditions that should have forced them to change course. Is that humanity's destiny? Vex wondered. Unknown, Pex replied. The Dremali knew they were exceptional and became arrogant. Humans don't know. Their ignorance may save them, and us, if we can maintain it. The contact team selected a remote location in a region humans called Montana. A small research facility there housed 12 scientists studying atmospheric conditions, isolated, educated individuals with minimal military connections. The diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere at midnight, its advanced cloaking active until the final moment. As planned, they appeared on the facility's instruments just long enough to seem detectable by human technology, maintaining the illusion that humans could track their movements if desired. Remember, Jex instructed the contact team. Appear cautious but not fearful. Present yourselves as physically comparable to humans. The exoskeleton modifiers will make your movements seem natural to them. Inside the research facility, alarms triggered as unknown objects appeared on radar. The human scientists reacted with surprising calm, gathering data, contacting authorities, and preparing observation equipment. Their behavior confirmed Vex's reports. Humans defaulted to information gathering rather than panic when facing the unknown. The Galactic Unity ship landed in a clearing half a kilometer from the facility. The contact team, Jex, 2 diplomats, and Vex as advisor, emerged wearing adaptive suits that approximated human appearance while concealing their true forms. They approached the facility slowly, transmitting the universal peace signal, hands empty and visible. The humans watched through windows, then cautiously sent 2 representatives to meet them halfway. The human greeting party consisted of Dr. Alan Reed, the facility director, and Dr. Lisa Torres, their communications specialist. Both displayed physiological stress indicators, but maintained remarkable composure. "We come in peace," Jex began, using the phrase humans had repeatedly used in their fictional first contact scenarios. "We represent a community of civilizations seeking dialogue with Earth." Dr. Reed's voice was steady despite his elevated heart rate. "We welcome you on behalf of humanity. Your arrival is unexpected, but not unanticipated." The initial exchange proceeded according to protocol. The humans asked logical questions about origins, intentions, and the nature of the galactic community. The diplomatic team provided prepared answers designed to reassure without revealing too much. Then, unexpectedly, Dr. Torres asked, "Are we the first pre-FTL species you've contacted?" The question was anticipated, but came earlier than expected. Jex replied with a planned half-truth. "Each species presents unique circumstances. Your technological trajectory suggested benefits to earlier dialogue. What happened next demonstrated exactly why humans were so concerning. Dr. Torres smiled slightly and said, "You're being diplomatic, but this isn't standard procedure for you. Something about us prompted special treatment." The intuitive leap, from limited information to accurate conclusion, was startling. The human had discerned the underlying truth without sufficient data points. It was the improvisational intelligence that made humans dangerous. Jex recovered smoothly. Your species has developed certain technologies in unusual sequences. We believe cooperative exchange could help stabilize your advancement. The humans accepted this explanation, but Vex noted the subtle exchange of glances between them. They suspected there was more to the story but were strategically choosing not to press. As they escorted the alien delegation to their facility, Dr. Reed commented casually, "You've probably been observing us for some time. I hope we haven't seemed too primitive or violent." The statement contained another intuitive leap, assuming surveillance before contact, and revealed their species-wide insecurity. They assumed they were perceived as lesser beings. All developing civilizations face challenges. Jex replied carefully, "Your adaptability is notable." Inside the facility, the other human scientists maintained remarkable composure. They offered refreshments, carefully declined workspace, and communication equipment to contact their governments. Throughout the initial meeting, Vex observed the humans closely. Despite the extraordinary situation, they quickly normalized the interaction, adapting to the presence of extraterrestrial beings with unsettling ease. Within hours, they were engaging in casual conversation, making jokes, and displaying curiosity rather than fear. "Your ability to adjust to new circumstances is impressive," Vex commented to Dr. Torres. She shrugged, a human gesture of dismissal. "It's just human nature. We roll with the punches." The idiom needed no translation. It perfectly encapsulated what made humans terrifying. They expected to be hit, and they expected to continue despite it. The news of first contact spread across Earth with remarkable speed. Within days, a global response team assembled, consisting of scientists, diplomats, and government representatives from major nations. The Galactic Unity delegation expanded accordingly, bringing specialists to engage with humans across multiple disciplines. What they discovered during these interactions only confirmed their initial assessments. Humans were even more adaptable than they appeared. "They're assimilating advanced concepts faster than projected," reported Zorn after a scientific exchange. "They're not merely accepting new information. They're extrapolating beyond what we shared." Human scientists, upon learning of quantum communication principles, had immediately begun theorizing applications beyond what the Galactic Unity currently employed. When introduced to galactic navigation concepts, human engineers quickly identified potential efficiency improvements. "It's their constraint thinking," Vex observed. "They evolved expecting resource limitations, so they constantly optimize beyond necessity." More concerning was how quickly humans normalized the extraordinary. Within weeks, the presence of extraterrestrial beings had become simply another reality to adjust to. Markets continued functioning, daily life proceeded, and humans incorporated this paradigm-shifting event into their existing worldview with minimal disruption. No other species has ever adapted this quickly to first contact, Elder Pex noted. "The psychological flexibility is unprecedented." The human diplomatic contingent, led by United Nations Secretary General Thomas Wilson, proposed an exchange program. Human representatives would visit the Galactic Unity, while Unity delegates would remain on Earth. The proposal came weeks earlier than the Galactic Unity had planned to suggest such exchanges. "They're accelerating the relationship timeline," Jex worried. "We're losing control of the integration process." A critical moment came during negotiations about technology sharing. The Unity delegation had carefully prepared limited offerings to help with Earth's environmental challenges without advancing human military capability. Secretary General Wilson surprised them by saying, "While we appreciate these environmental technologies, We're equally interested in your medical scanning devices. They appear to operate on principles our physicists have only theorized. The request revealed that humans had been covertly analyzing the delegation's equipment, something no other pre-FTL species had attempted during first contact. Your observational capabilities are impressive, Jex acknowledged cautiously. Wilson smiled. We're quick studies. Necessity has made us observant. That evening, the Galactic Unity delegation held an emergency conference. They're moving too quickly, Vex warned. At this rate, they'll achieve galactic standard technology within decades rather than centuries. More concerning, added the xenopsychologist, is that they still don't recognize their exceptional nature. They believe they're merely compensating for biological inferiority with intelligence and determination. Elder Pex came to a difficult conclusion. We must tell them the truth. Controlled revelation is preferable to discovery. The following day, Elder Pex requested a private meeting with Secretary General Wilson and a small human leadership group. There, with careful preparation, he revealed what the Galactic Unity had learned about humanity. Your species possesses exceptional resilience, physical, psychological, and social, by galactic standards, Pex explained. What you consider normal endurance, adaptation, and recovery would be considered extraordinary elsewhere. Wilson and his team received this information with initial skepticism, then dawning comprehension as comparative biological and psychological data was presented. You're telling us, Dr. Torres clarified, that our perceived weakness is actually strength. That our constant struggle to overcome limitations has made us uniquely resilient. Precisely, Pex confirmed. Most species would collapse under pressures humans routinely endure. Your perception of yourselves as ordinary has prevented you from recognizing your exceptional nature. After a long silence, Wilson laughed softly. So all our science fiction got it backward. We imagined superior beings coming to Earth, never considering we might be the super-aliens in the story. This understanding brings responsibility, Pex emphasized. Your species will soon join the galactic community. Your resilience is valuable, but must be tempered with awareness of how others perceive you. Wilson nodded thoughtfully. So the terrifying truth is that humans don't know they're terrifying. Was terrifying, Pex corrected. Now you know. What you do with that knowledge will determine humanity's place among the stars. As the meeting concluded, Vex observed the humans carefully. Their expressions showed wonder, confusion, and something else, a dawning sense of both responsibility and possibility. Later, as the diplomatic vessel prepared for departure with the first human delegates aboard, Vex stood with Wilson watching the sunset. Will this knowledge change humanity? Vex asked. Wilson considered the question. Awareness always changes you. But our core nature remains. We'll adapt to this understanding like we've adapted to everything else. That's what we're counting on, Vex replied. The galaxy needs adaptability. Just controlled adaptability. Wilson smiled. We'll try not to be too terrifying out there. As the ship rose into the darkening sky, humanity began its journey into a wider universe, still the same resilient, adaptable species, but now with the beginning of understanding about how extraordinary that made them. The terrifying truth had been revealed, and in typical human fashion, they had adapted to it. The end.